Hello, people, and welcome back to the Tech of Tomorrow podcast, where we discuss what I believe to be the tech of tomorrow, not AI, not cloud computing, not anything but humans and the people who are creating all these amazing inventions that are changing the planet. Now, my name is Sebastian Hidalgo. I am your host and a strategy consultant, and my guest today is the founder and CEO of Zing, Dan Melnick. Welcome, Dan, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me on.
I appreciate taking the time. We've been following each other on Twitter for a while. Then I found you on LinkedIn and decided, well, let's ask him out on a podcast.
Thank you.
Listen, let's get right into it. If I were to ask you who Dan Melnick is in one sentence, what would you say?
I am the CEO and founder of Zing, based in Austin, Texas.
Based in Austin, Texas. Have you always been in Austin?
No, so I moved to Austin about 2 months ago. I lived in Dallas and Fort Worth for a few years. So I've been in Texas coming up on 4 years now. I grew up in Chicago. So definitely proud to be a Texan now. But yeah, it's a great place to be.
I know Austin is like becoming a hub for companies, right? Is that part of the reason why you moved, or was
Yeah,
the weather most of it?
no, so I initially moved to Texas because, yeah, like Texas is a huge hub for business. And I myself used to be in the corporate world. I was in consulting myself. So, yeah, like Dallas is a much bigger city, much more accessible. You can fly direct to any major city in America. Very easy to travel from Dallas Airport. But yeah, I mean, like Austin is just, in my opinion, like a much better city for tech, for networking, for entrepreneurship. You have much more of that going on compared to Dallas, which is just a much more corporate, larger city, much more spread out. So there's definitely opportunities there, but it's much more difficult to find them, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. So, can you tell people listening what does Zing do and why
Sure.
it is different from other companies?
Sure. So yeah, I can kind of just get like into the backstory of Zing is that we started this company because I myself wanted to build a mobile application. I had trouble finding good developers. So I had a different business. I had an eBay store and I said, listen, I want to build a mobile app at a very high level. And I had all these different developers overseas, India, Pakistan, etc. And finally, this was around 2019. I met one of my current co-founders, Qasim Masood, and he built out, or him and his agency built out my mobile app for us and did a phenomenal job. So for me, it's just piecing together that quality and value, which many organizations, you're either paying a lot of money for quality, which is great, or you're paying less money, but you're not getting good value because these developers can't deliver. They take on more than they can handle. The communication is bad, right? So for us, it's like, okay, how can we bring this American presence from having a team overseas and combine the two, right? So really bring as much value as possible. Like we're also working on AI solutions and marketing, but really software development is a big focus for us at this moment.
Interesting. How do you compete directly with overseas developers, or are we already beyond that?
There's definitely some competition. I mean, it's just, we try to price ourselves a little bit more just because we do offer more value. But yeah, I mean, listen, the good talent, it's becoming a very global economy, right? The talent, in India or Pakistan is very high level, so there's definitely lots of competition. We obviously believe that we're superior for many reasons. I mean, for example, we have an office of about 35, 40 engineers. So like we're very much working in a collaborative way. Many other organizations are remote or they hire freelancers. So for us, like we're really focused on collaboration and performance, right? We've delivered every single project that we've taken on. We do not take on work that we cannot deliver. So that makes us different. Many other organizations make all these promises. Oh yeah, I can deliver. I can, we're not going to take it on if we can't do it, which we can take on most projects, but we definitely are very, very certain about what our capabilities are and what they're not, if that makes sense.
I love the honesty. Sticking to your capabilities is how you play games you can win, which to me is the essence of strategy. And for the people listening might be wondering, yo, what does that have to do with me that we have an office? Actually, when you like great company cultures are favored by having a great office because people are able to collaborate and exchange knowledge and be more committed and innovate more. So if you work with Zing, probably you will get that added value of them working together as one unit rather than remote teams that, as you know, probably, I don't know if you went through it during the pandemic, but remote teams tend to focus on just solving one task during one call, and that's it. There's very little chance to exchange value, exchange even expertise, and innovate on new projects.
100%. I mean, part of the challenge is also it's like, lots of people in this industry in the software development space take on lots of different projects that they're freelancers, right? So the challenge then becomes like, okay, well, I have all these different projects. Well, I'm going to work on the one that pays me the most. And the people who aren't paying as much potentially, maybe somebody who you signed on before, right? They're not going to give them much attention, which is not the way to run a business. Like, to me, it doesn't matter how much our clients are paying us. We always give them 100%, attention. We're always responding very quickly. Like, it doesn't matter to me. It's about, like the value that we provide, and our clients trust in us. So to do that and to run a business that way is not it's not a good way to go. So for me, it's really just, focused on delivery, focused on client satisfaction, and making sure that our developers, like when they're working, that they're at work and getting things done. Of course, if we have a great front office culture, a great environment, but it minimizes, or you could say prevents, developers from taking on a bunch of work and then not being able to focus on what they actually should be focused on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, happy customers are the ultimate metric, right?
100%.
Listen, I know you rebranded, right? Like, I want
Correct.
to ask you, what was the thought process behind that, and what made you pull the trigger on the decision? Because I've spearheaded some rebrands, and I know it can be hard to get to that point where you say, "Hey, we gotta rebrand this company." How did you get there, and why?
Yeah, so for us, we were initially started South Lake Consulting. I was in the Dallas Fort Worth area. South Lake is a big suburb and like in that area. And I knew first of all that I wanted to move to Austin. So that was one thing. But second, like we don't really do much consulting. And then people say, "Oh, what are you consulting me on?" And I said, no, we actually do the work. Like we can consult for sure, but we consult and give advice and say, "Hey, listen, like you can hire us or you can hire someone else, but like we actually do the work. We're not just consulting and then looking for you to." Yeah, it's like a very different type of business. So it really confused lots of people. And once again, we're not in South Lake. We wanted to be a much more global brand, and Zing represented that. And so, yeah, it doesn't really like be holding us to South Lake, Texas, which is a great place, but we want it to be much more recognizable, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. That's a key reason to make a rebrand. Also, you know, some people say that the company name doesn't matter, and the issue comes when it doesn't reflect what you do, and when it confuses people on what you do. Then you know that that's an alarm bell you pretty much caught. That okay, this doesn't portray us the right way, so we change it.
Exactly.
How did you pick the name thing? I like it. He has a twang to it.
Yeah, so we have an advisor that works with us, and so we went through lots of different names and different options, and that was on the list. And I just thought that was cool. And it just kind of gave us this futuristic feel of technology. Like it's just short, simple, to the point. And yeah, I mean, that's sort of what it was. Really just going through like different names, like branding, understanding what we wanted to be, where we wanted to identify as a business. And, our advisor helped us out and guided us to pick Zang. And that's really just how we picked it. So.
It's great to hear. How many employees do you have?
So our company is set up in a very interesting way where full time, it's three of us, right? I have one partner in New Jersey, Effie. I have Qasim in Pakistan, but Qasim has about 35 engineers that work through his agency, and they work for us on an as per need basis. They have some of their own clients too, but most of their work today is with us. We do have about 10 people in the Philippines that do marketing and business development, things like that. So they are contractors, but they're working full time. But yeah, in terms of like true, like what you consider full time employees, technically like, three of us, but it can be sometimes 30, 40, 50 people, depending on this, cadence and scope of what we're working on.
And when it goes to that 30, 40, 50 people, what's the main challenge of managing a big team? Because, we all love CEOs and it's a figure that people aspire to, but even CEOs rarely open up themselves about the challenges. So what is the challenge of managing a growing team?
Yeah, I mean, it can definitely be tough. Like sometimes you hire people and it's hard to be involved in every single process. Like when it comes to software development, like I let Kasim handle that. Like that's more of his domain and his team there. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to sales, marketing, things like that, sometimes you hire people and they're just not a good fit and you don't know, right? It takes some time. So really just, training, hiring like the right people. I mean, you hire people sometimes and they seem good and you interview them, they come through like a referral and it's not a good fit, or it's just it takes a long time to get up to speed, which is okay, but sometimes there's just some gaps there in knowledge. So yeah, I mean, it's really like I try to be involved in everything, but it can be difficult sometimes to make sure that we're on the same page and aligned when you have so many people.
Perfectly understandable. And what would be your advice to a CEO going through like, okay, I need to grow my team and hire the right people?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we've been very big on hiring people internationally. I mean, I think there's lots of value there. Obviously, like in America, there's great talent, but it's much more expensive. So, especially like in the early stages, it's good to explore your options, right? Hiring people like we do in the Philippines or in Pakistan or other countries. There's lots of opportunities, lots of very skilled and talented people. Now, the key thing is if you're going to hire people, no matter where they live, the expectations must be clear. What hours they're working, what they have to do, right? So if that's not clear, it's going to be very, very challenging. So yeah, I mean, it takes time to find good people, but you're better off going through like the full interview process, interviewing more people and being diligent. Because if you rush, through that process and hire the wrong person, that can be a big, big mistake and a very costly mistake and set back your business, which is, definitely some mistakes that we've made, but it's really just, learning and improving from those challenges.
Yes, I like the answer. Now, I listened to you on the Side Hustle and Tips podcast. It's a very nice interview, and you mentioned obsession, right? I wanted, since you built a company while having a normal job, then you sold companies, and now you're running your own, and you got a pretty big team. How important has obsession been for you, and do you feel like it will keep being important in the future?
100%. You have to be obsessed. You have to love what you're doing. I mean, to me, I enjoy every single day. I mean, I'm working pretty much every day, and I'm involved in lots of processes. So yeah, I mean, for me, it's always like trying to improve, right? Like I'm reading different books, podcasts, and for me, I'm always when I get new information, I try to use that to my advantage. And I think it's a constant learning of like how you can improve, how you can be better. Like if something's not working, sometimes you just need to go and talk to people or go out and do something different and take like get like out of the phone. Okay, like what is the answer? Like, this is not working. Okay, let's stop this thing, but we're gonna be able to do something else to make something work, right? What am I doing wrong? Um, and I think, yeah, for sure, you have to be obsessed. You have to just love what you're doing and focus on value. Like for me, it's really just there's nothing more enjoyable than having conversations with people and just saying, okay, like what can I help them with? What are their challenges? Can I help? And if I can't, okay, like like there's somebody else in my network that can help them out, right? Like understanding, okay, like what are their challenges? Can we help them? And what would that look like? And it's awesome that I get to talk to like so many different people every day. And that's one of the things that I love about being a CEO.
It's a mistake, as you often, like, when people don't do that, when people don't focus on value. I see often that happening, even IT companies, software companies, they focus more on what they want to produce, on what they want to code, and they focus less and less on what's valuable for the end consumer, to the customer. Do you have methods to avoid that to happen? Do you catch yourself trying to focus too much on, hey, I want to do this for the sake of doing it? Or did you just naturally learn to focus on value, and now it doesn't happen anymore, that you're tempted to fall back into the circle of, wow, let's add this new thing that nobody needs?
No, yeah, in the very beginning, my last company that was not successful definitely was I focused too much on just like what I thought was good. I didn't really have many customer conversations. And I learned from that. I think in this case, sometimes I've had too many conversations, but it's also good to be in the weeds. And for me, it's like, especially now talking to people, it's focusing on exactly like what they need, what the value is, and even getting them on a call. We offer free trials, for example, even for our services, just to build some trust, because there's so many people in this industry that will sell you the world, but they can't deliver. So it's like, okay, I get it. I get the hesitation because you've been through that challenge, but okay, let me just work for free for some time, like a week, 2 weeks, etc., and prove to you what we can do. And if you hate it, you don't pay me. And if you love it, well, let's work together so you can build your project. So there's really, finding ways to build the trust and show value is really important for me.
That's bold. I've never met somebody that gives a trial for a service. And I love it, right? Because it means you're confident in it.
Exactly.
How did that idea come about? Just by looking at the market where people just promise and under deliver?
Yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting idea because there's so many people that need developers. And yeah, exactly. It's like our costs are not high. So especially being in Pakistan, so like let's just put our devs on project for a week or so and see like or 2 weeks and or do some sort of like small task and just like that's going to bring value for them and show them what we can do, right? Because yeah, like especially if it could be a big project, I want to build the trust. I don't want to, people say, oh, what about this company or that company? Like, no, like we already did the work. We showed you what we can do. Let's work together, right? Because then people start saying like that there's always this like hesitation, and people start looking elsewhere. Oh, they're talking to like this agency, that agency. So for me, it's really just bringing as much value as I can up front is something that we do offer because yeah, I mean, there's a lot of competition. We're still pretty new. So just showing people, hey, what can we actually do for you?
I love it. And I love it because it requires courage, and because you have to know you're good. And especially from the human part, right? Because business is about humans. So the thing is that you build rapport and you build trust. So by the time you deliver the service, you deliver it well, they will have no reason to shop around because they trust you already.
Exactly.
Wow. That was impressive. Now, I lost my question thinking about that. Is you mentioned that the previous company you had failed. What's what's the biggest lesson you would give another CEO listening to this about failure and about how to face it and about how to avoid it?
Yeah, I mean, make sure you're actually solving for a problem, and have a lot of conversations with people about what you're actually building. And Noah Kagan, who we did work with, he wrote a book about this, one of his recent books. And it really talks in a very good way about the strategy of asking for money up front before even building something. Say, okay, would you use it? Okay, fine, pay me $100, right? Like make sure that these people are actually going to put their money where their mouth is because many people build these cool tools and ideas that nobody really needs. And if you're building something in a competitive space, that's fine, but make sure that, hey, like, listen, like, if you're building like an alternative to Zoom, for example, how are you going to get people to convert from Zoom? Is it going to be cheaper? Is it going to be, like, what is the value, right? So understanding, like, what people actually want and getting people to put their money where their mouth is. Because many people say, oh yeah, for sure, I love this thing. When it comes down to it, they're not actually interested, right? So yeah, I mean, I think with my last startup, it could have probably worked, but it was also like a big mistake was really just not putting in like enough time into it. Like you can definitely build something doing it part-time, but it's very tricky. And the amount of time and energy that you have throughout the day, it's very difficult, especially because I used to be in consulting. So I was traveling a lot. I didn't have much time. So it's very difficult to kind of balance those things. But yeah, I mean, it can definitely be done. But if you're building something while having a full-time job, there's going to be a lot of sacrifices, a lot. Not that there's not going to be like, like in this way. I mean, sometimes, when you're building a startup, you're not paying yourself and to find different ways to make money. So it's kind of like a different balance, but at least like the startup takes priority because you're not competing with like your full-time job that you can lose or get fired from if you don't do that task, right? And many people are just too afraid to quit. You're making good money and whatever. So that's also can be a challenge. But yeah, I mean, I think it was really just focus and for me, it was also like just this idea that I didn't get enough proof that it would actually, be interesting for people, if that makes sense.
That's where the obsession comes into place. Because I used to build to while I had a job, and that's where you gotta be obsessed because you're gonna be tired. You're gonna have not enough time to do anything, but you still gotta work on the company.
Exactly.
How do you go about having those conversations with people about what you're building? Are you big on networking? Do you leverage your social media platform? How do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, social media is great. I mean, LinkedIn, Twitter, I try and talk to people. I mean, here in Austin, there's a good amount of networking events. Like I try to go to at least something once a week, sometimes more often. There's definitely lots of different in-person events. So for me, it's like when I go to events, just talking to as many people as possible about what I'm doing, how we can bring them value. So that's really, yeah, I mean, networking is critical. You just don't know who you're going to meet, right? Because you might meet somebody who might introduce you to somebody else, right? So it's kind of like, and even then, yeah, like you can be in a situation and talk to somebody, and like we've had people who are friends of mine who just are in the same, community, and over time, then they have their own business. Okay, listen, like now I need your service. Let's work together. Let's just see on what's possible. So yeah, I mean, networking is critical. Talking to people about what you're doing is critical because a lot of people, they might know you, but they don't know what you do. And I think that's pretty important as well.
Like it's true. People know you, but they don't know what you do. And also, repetition never hurts because people forget.
Exactly.
Like you meet them once, of course, they forgot that they barely remember your name.
Right.
If they see a couple times, you have a higher chance of them remembering what you do and maybe even referring you if they don't need you immediately.
Exactly.
How you got a pretty sizable presence on LinkedIn, if I remember correctly. How did you
Yeah.
build
So one thing on LinkedIn is just consistency in posting, but the biggest thing is just LinkedIn gives you, I think, a certain amount of connection requests you can send per week. So just maximizing that, doing as many as you can. It's like you can do like 150 a week. So LinkedIn will tell you, hey, like you're maxed out for this week. So for sure, max it out. I think Sundays at around 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., depending on your time zone, is when they will roll over for the new week. So kind of like Sundays, I'll be checking if I'm not maxed out, how can I max out my connections, and really focusing on people who are ideally active, right? So many of the people that I've connected with, I see liking or commenting on different posts in my feed. Because yeah, I mean, like a big mistake people like might make is you send people connection requests, but they check LinkedIn like once a year. So it's like they might accept it, but it might not be for like a year from now, right? So understanding like, are they active, maxing it out, and of course, posting content, trying to give as much value as possible. Like we do share our podcast that we have. Definitely, like I'm looking to post more high level content, but for sure, I mean, the active users sending connection requests and having a good bio, right? Like being clear about what you do and what value that you offer, because people are more likely to accept saying, oh, yeah, like Dan is tech and e-commerce, and I'm in e-commerce or I'm in tech and whatever, like he's an interesting person, let me accept and see what's up, right? So, making your profile super clear about what you do and why somebody would want to accept it.
Solid advice right there.
Thank
Listen,
you.
I heard you talk about AI in the Side Hustles and Tips podcast.
Yeah.
How do you see that, especially for CEOs, right, and business owners and founders? How is that going to change their daily job?
I mean, it's already changing their job right now. I mean, for me, I use ChatGPT every day. Um, I think in certain industries, like AI chat for sure is what, something that we're building is going to be a much bigger thing. It really just depends on your vertical. But oftentimes, yeah, I mean, for example, right now from the software development side, we're bidding out some, government contracts, and those are very document heavy things, but the AI can summarize it and say, okay, this is what you actually need, etc. So it's really a big time saver. And it's a huge value add. I mean, across different industries, there's so much value. For example, like the product that we're building for AI chat, we've spoken to many people in the hospitality space. So if you have a restaurant, it's a huge problem today where it's hard to find people, and the people that you do find don't stay for very long. They might stay for a few months. There's lots of turnover. And so how do you minimize that? It's not like we're looking to take jobs away from people. It's more of like, if you can't find people or you can't find good people, let's see how AI and machine learning can come in, right? So if you have like a restaurant, have a chat on your website or have a chat even for maybe placing orders, right? Like I've seen it in drive-through. So AI is everywhere. I think in certain industries, there's more of a use case, but it's definitely going to keep growing and growing over time.
How, from an expert perspective, I think you're the best person to ask this to. How good is it at coding, actually?
How good is AI coding?
Yeah.
Um, I've never written a lot of code personally, so I know our developers do use it here and there, and I think it's solid. I think it really just depends on what language you're coding in. Um, I'm not a developer, so I can't speak to it personally, but I know our developers do use it. So it just depends, right? Because certain projects are proprietary, and so if that's the case, you cannot use ChatGPT because it's open source. So really understanding like, what are you working on? What agreements we have? Do we have NDAs? Like we have to make sure that we're not coding something that is proprietary in ChatGPT. And people have gotten in trouble with certain organizations by doing that. So it's really important to make sure what you're working on and like the agreements and sensitivity of that data.
Do you see AI ever replacing a human in a role, like in a role that requires, let's say, creative thinking and problem solving, which is coding, consulting, even like, salespeople?
Probably not at that high, not at that high of a level. I mean, sales is relative. Like it could be some level of, sales or customer service. I think I've seen products that it's like call you back and saying, hey, saw that you were on this website or saw that you were at the store. So there's some level of that. I mean, is that sales? It is. It's not super high level in the sense of like hopping on a sales call. But I mean, it's possible. I think that for that, we're still quite a ways away. But once again, for sure, in hospitality, I'm already seeing it now where you have an AI drive-through, for example. Um, so it depends like on the industry, but and like the thing is, right, people are worried about humans being replaced. It's going to create new jobs, right? Like if there's an AI drive-through, it might mess up. It might need to be retrained, right? There's going to be people that are going to be sitting and watching these models and training these models, making sure that they're, computing accurate information. We've spoken to organization that all they do is train AI models all day, right? So it's important to understand that yes, jobs will go away, but new jobs will be created. And that's the way things have always been with technology.
Yes, I think also the concern about it is a little bit over the top. We probably just watched too much Terminator, right? So the
Exactly.
tiny thing is on the back of everyone's mind, but yeah, probably. How do you see with clients? Do your clients ask about it? Do they expect it to be there? Do they feel left behind?
It depends on what we're doing. I mean, definitely some clients don't understand it so much, so we don't get involved in it. Some clients want it. I mean, our AI, the thing that we work on mostly is from the customer service side. So I always tell people, and I'm very transparent, how many inquiries do you get? Right? Because if you're getting tons of inquiries, yes, AI can bring tons of value. If you get one message per week, I mean, it can still bring value, but you might not want to use AI, like if you can handle it. So it just depends. Some people just want to focus like on the personal interaction. But for other people, it's like even if it's one per week, they don't want to waste the time and they don't want to miss a sale possibility because it might be 3 in the morning and somebody might have a question, you're not available, right? So it really just depends on how you feel about it. And so yeah, we definitely do work on it, but it's just for some people, it's like a zero-sum game. It doesn't matter what we say, they just don't want to use AI, which I'm totally fine with.
Okay, so you're not on the team that everybody should be turning into an AI first company.
I don't think so. I don't think it's, I mean, we definitely should be finding a way to use it at some point. But in terms of like a lot of it is sort of like a buzzword. I mean, if you're a large organization, definitely you should be using it in some capacity. But if you're small, I mean, yeah, for sure, use it for a copy, use it for spelling and grammar and things like that. First, maybe like some chat component, but you don't need to use it for everything that you do, especially not for customer service. If you like, for me, like, yeah, I have people that help run my accounts when it comes to social media, but I mean, sure, I could have AI do it, but it's like I don't feel like it's as like authentic or as high level. And like the people on my team, if they don't know an answer, they'll come back and say, "Hey, Dan, like, can you help me out?" Right? AI won't do that. They're either going to respond or, yeah. So it's just like that kind of concerns me to some degree if they're going to, AI is running my accounts, for example.
Also, the quality is different. I think
Exactly.
I am yet to see AI content that is actually relatable. You can and you can build something with it.
Exactly. 100%.
Good. Is there, if there is a company among your client base that's maybe looking into investing in software, maybe looking into hire software developers, what would you tell them? Like, should they hire internally? When is it the time to invest in an agency like Zing? How do you make that decision?
100%. I mean, it really just depends on where you're at in your business. If you have the budget, you should definitely hire people internally in the US, but it's going to cost you probably $150,000 a year per developer. Sometimes 100K, but it's still a lot of money. So if you want to hire several, that could be a budget of $500,000, give or take. So if you have that kind of money or $1 million extra, go for it, right? But if you're looking to, get value and allocate your resources somewhere else on sales and marketing or other channels, or just, just have more profit, right? Like, have more cash flow. I mean, like at that point, definitely, you do not want to spend that kind of money hiring developers. You can spend a fraction of that, get high level development, and make it feel like it's part of your company. That's the way that thing works, right? We're part of your company. We're in a Slack channel, working together in a very collaborative way, meeting with our clients at any time. If they want to have a meeting in an hour, we'll be available, right? So it's a very collaborative effort. Sure, we're an external team, but we're a part of your company and if we have deadlines, we're gonna make sure that we're gonna get them done on time. And we're always very transparent. So yeah, I mean, it's a great experience. And also you can hire somebody internally that might not be good, right? So there's always risk there. So especially early on when you're looking to build out software, Zing is a great company to hire. And then later on, you can bring in people internally, right? So once you kind of start the processes or work with you for a couple of years, then you can start to bring in people internally so we can kind of, you know, offload some of that work, right? But early on, for sure, you don't want to spend that kind of crazy money, it's just not worth it.
That was quite persuasive.
Thank you.
Listen, I know you gotta go soon, so I will wrap it up here. But before we go, where can people find you, follow you, get in touch with you, hire Zing?
For sure. So myzing.io is our website. Zing Fuel on social media. And then for me personally, it's Dan P. Melnick. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find me pretty much anywhere. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here. People, this was the Tech of Tomorrow podcast with Sebastian Hidalgo. My guest today was Dan Melnick, the CEO of Zing. I am a strategy consultant, and I will be here for you in the next episode. See you next time.